Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host Bryan. We're going to wrap up today with a special selection, which is where one of you tell me exactly what it is I need to check out. Today's special selection comes at us from Frode. Please react to the song Ichthys by Norwegian death proggers Endolith. They are quite diverse in style, even includes a string orchestra. Well, you got me sold on pretty much all of that. Let's dive into this, see what's going on with Endolith today. Pretty straightforward groove. We have a little bit of it sounded like tremolo picking on top to create an atmosphere. Now we're back just to solid groove. And of course the string trio. Can't forget about that from the intro. So we're in 4/4, but they kind of play around with time on the back half. We have a very clean vocals and strings. Onto a 3-3-2, 1-2-3, 1-2-3, 1-2, 1-2-3, 1-2-3, 1-2. Let's shift the nat to an every other beat snare hit. See over here. That's tremolo bowing actually, I think. That chirpy guitar thing. Arpeggiating on the strings, that's what that's going on. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 2. Every other hit. Oh, that's every hit, actually. Those big stingers. Ooh. Because of the halftime feel, that feels really weird. So they're shifting from downbeats to offbeats, and I think it's an asymmetric pattern there, which is what's causing that. Yep, there's the tremolo bowing. Although I think that was in time, so that's just 16th notes, not tremolo. Really cool layering of rhythms here. We had quarter note being represented in the drums, eighth notes being represented in the guitar, and 16th notes being represented in the violin. So we do have layered harshes and cleans there. The harshes are quiet. Okay. That's an interesting place to end because those stingers are high energy. To me, they represent an anticipation of something, as if something is on the horizon. We're about to go somewhere else, and then the song just ends, unfortunately. So, I don't know. Like I said, it's an interesting ending. Maybe lyrically it represents something, maybe artistically it represents something, but I hear that and I'm ready for more. Where is this taking us? And then it just stops in that transition idea. Uh, yeah, like I said, maybe it'll all come around to me though. As it stands though, this is some pretty solid death metal with some, not necessarily orchestral elements, but a string trio. Or maybe just a string duo. I thought I saw 3 instruments in the music video, but there at the end, it constantly just showed the 2 string players side by side, the violinist and the cellist. So maybe there wasn't a third. Maybe that was just some tricks of different shots and made it look like that. Anyways, there's a couple of string players in here, whether that couple means 2 or 3. And I do think that it helps expand the song out. But there's actually a few things that helps expand it out a little bit. And I want to focus on that pure foundation before we look at the expansion. No, this is, as I was saying, at its heart, this is a death metal song. There is a lot of focus on these chuggy riffs going on, dun 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 dun, really focusing on these low tones, giving it a really heavy, edgy vibe. On top of that, we have the growls, and they're just super low, super consistent. It's this one tone throughout the entire song. And the drums are aggressive. There is a lot of snare and bass work, and they tend to be a bit more rigid than playful or syncopated. They tend to lock into a specific hit, whether that's a snare on every other beat or a snare on every beat. I think the only time that the drums get a little playful is in the chorus, which actually makes a lot of sense, but we will visit that later. The song does kick off with some strings. It presents something a little more than just the metal bands, but as soon as the intro is gone and the vocals come in, those strings are gone too. And we just have a pretty straightforward death metal song. There is this cool thing off on the side though. There's some guitar work. I think it could be a synthesizer, but I'm going to go with guitar because they didn't have a synth in the video. That doesn't mean it wasn't, programmed in at some point, but it could be a guitar. It's just this. It starts out as what sounds like tremolo picking in the intro, and then it becomes this chirpy run. A couple of lower notes, a couple of higher notes until it hits this really high one that really stands out in the mix, and then descends back down. It's quiet though. It's really easy to miss if you're not looking for it. And I do wish it was a bit more present, as I think it provides movement and character to the song, because everything else just feels very, very death metal. It's very straightforward, very repetitive, very rhythmic, very atmospheric based. And without any lead melody coming out from the vocals, without any lead melody in any of the guitars, without a lead melody in the bass, having this idea, even if it's just a simple ascent and descent, provides a melodic component to the song. And I think that the track has benefited from it. It really should have come through just a hair bit more. I don't think it should have been dominant. I don't think it should have been center channel just to put the spotlight directly on it. But in some of the lower tones, I think it even gets lost completely in the mix. And I'm just kind of imagining them there because that's what it sounds like it's doing. It's really only the top half that I think has any sort of clarity to it at all. And so, like I said, I think it adds a lot, but it's not quite present enough in the mix. And maybe they just wanted this death metal sound, and this was more of a secondary thing. If you pick it up, yeah, you got a little bit of an Easter egg. If you didn't, that's fine because it's not the core part of the song. So this might just be where their intentions and what I tend to like in music could differ a little bit. I just would have produced it differently. Um, So yeah, we have this death metal core though, and as we explore the verses and the bridge, this is pretty apparent. Now we do deviate from this at times, not to say that this changes, this is pretty much the same throughout the entire song, but it shifts from being the focus to being a foundation in other parts of the track, particularly the intro. This is where we have the strings on top of it providing a melodic component. This is what I really think is missing from the verse and what I would prefer to have had a little bit more of, though that's also probably because death metal just isn't really my cup of tea generally. Um, and this is kind of a reason why. I think I just have this different perspective on music than a lot of death metal musicians, which probably explains why I lean a little closer to tech death, where melody takes a much more important role. Regardless, we have these cool violin lines on top of this death metal stuff, and I think that works really well. Also, leading into the chorus, we have that stinger idea. I think that's pretty cool. I wish it was expanded in some way, but it was neat. We do have an expansion of this in a different direction, though. I was hoping that these stingers would be expanded into something melodic, and instead they get expanded into something interestingly rhythmic. There is that section where we take this idea and then we put it over a half beat drum pattern. And I thought this was pretty cool because what I heard was downbeats was actually, well, I think I was hearing it as beat one. It actually comes in on beat two instead, which feels a bit delayed, which compared to what I was expecting, makes it feel a little off-putting, a little jarring. I thought that was a pretty cool idea there. That is not where I would have put that, but it's where they did, and it created something kind of unique in there, and something that fits the aggression of the song rhythmically, which is something you just don't hear too much from death metal, which tends to be a bit more straightforward with its rhythmic ideas. They're either straightforward groove or they're just aggressive rigidity. And hearing something a bit playful like this, I thought that was a nice little change. Again, I would have liked some melody out of it, but we had that rhythmic switch up there, and I'll take it. Compromise, right? That's what this is about. And so the strings bring in a few different ideas to the table that help elevate the song and push it in new directions. But I think what really makes this stand out to me is the chorus, the one thing that we really haven't talked about yet. The chorus to me is the highlight of the song, as choruses tend to be, but I think particularly because I'm not a big fan of the verse sound in general. And so for them to completely change this and for the guitars to take up more of a chordal foundational idea more so than an atmospheric one, and to use a clean vocal with strings in order to create melody and harmony on top of this really matches my musical sensibilities a bit better. And so it clicks with me in a way that the A section doesn't. We switch out a lot of the aggression and rigidity of the metal for something a bit more palatable and melodic and honestly a little bit more elegant. It's not necessarily a word I would typically use for this, but compared to the type of music we had in the A, I think elegance is definitely the direction it ends up going in, even if comparatively this isn't really elegant music. Um, I do like the shift to the clean vocals, though. I think it provides a melody that we don't really get anywhere else in the song. Yeah, in the bridge a little bit, which we'll talk about in a second. The intro had a little bit of it, but honestly, that's kind of it. Some fleeting sections here and there. And to dedicate a portion of this song that we revisit two more times after this to say, look, this is our melodic portion. I like that. And it stands out quite a bit just through the sheer concept of contrast. We came from something very rhythmic, very atmospheric, very heavy and brutal, and we've lightened things up into this. And so it feels more gentle. Like I said, it has an elegance to it compared to where we have been that I think it would feel if it was in isolation. If the whole song was like this, I don't think I would feel this bit of relief for it. I don't think I would ever call it elegant, but it is in contrast, and that contrast helps elevate it. I was also a little worried that the strings were going to be just an intro idea thing, and I was really happy to hear them in the chorus, and that probably helped me engage with and enjoy the chorus a bit more than I would normally as well. There isn't honestly anything special about the chorus. It does what a lot of modern metal does, especially in the more mainstream field of metal, where the chorus is chords on the guitars and a soaring vocal line above that with smooth drums that keep the rhythm. It is kind of mainstream metal by numbers. It has that metalcore chorus idea going on. Yeah, again, there's nothing really special to it, but I like what they're doing, and I like that the strings are really played. That's a nice distinction. I wonder if the strings are part of the band, or if they just hired session musicians for this specific song, for this specific music video. Either way, it's just really nice to see string players there instead of just putting it in the background that you programmed in your audio workstation or whatever. And so I end up walking away from the chorus quite enjoying it. Then we get to the bridge, and I'm kind of 50-50 on this, because they take this idea where they're like, okay, we have made heavy metal, we have made lighter metal, what's the bridge going to be, right? The bridge is usually the moment where your song either really hones in on what you're doing. Metalcore likes to do this as you make heavy music and then you lean into a breakdown. You really get into the core sound of your music. You make it heavier and you get rid of all the fluff and go for just the accent points. So you really lean into what you're doing and specialize on it. Or the bridge can also go in the opposite direction and explore a new sound that will help tell your story. A lot of progressive bands tend to go this direction. And I would even say that in the mainstream rock world, the bridge is typically a brand new idea that's actually, in retrospect, can often kind of feel out of place as we come back to the chorus, back to that original sound where your A and your B share an identity and your C is its own unique thing. So those are kind of the two main directions to go. And so where do you go if you've already explored these two different sounds? We could go acoustic, sure. We could go electric or pop. We could go in electronic realm. There's definitely ways you can bring in genre bending into it, which, I mean, yeah, that's legitimate. You can do that. But they decide to go the other route. They're going to lean into what they do. Well, they do two things. So let's lean into both of them. We get a heavier, more metallic breakdown-ish section. We focus on really strong rhythms in here. And then we focus on just the strings. And we get this very cool duet going on between the violin and the cello. And that helps bring us into the final chorus. And what I like about this final chorus is I don't know if it is the chorus. There's definitely a lot of parts in it that feel like the chorus, but I think we have a new rhythm underneath everything, and we might have new words, but we definitely have new layering in the vocals. We have the clean vocals and we have the growls underneath, although much like that ornamental moving guitar idea off in the verse, I also feel like the vocals here, the harsh ones, are a bit too low. I really had to listen in for him. I saw the dude screaming and I didn't hear any growls. And I thought maybe he was doing cleans, but I only hear one clean. And then when I really listen, I'm like, oh, there is a compression underneath all of this. I wish those growls had just been brought up in the mix a little bit. It's just another little decision that I think the producer ended up pulling the volume a little too far down on a supporting idea and ended up making it feel like it's missing or invisible rather than being supportive like it's supposed to be. And I think that that's just a missed opportunity on both points. And hopefully it's something that the band can or has already fixed on future songs. So those are my thoughts on this. It's rather straightforward, but I do like the more progressive elements. I like the use of melody in several places, and the strings are a nice touch. You don't get to see that too often, because usually you get a full digital orchestra, and I like just having, two extra instruments here. They just happen to be acoustic strings. Although given their timbre, I would almost say that there are electric violins, e-violin, e-cello, but still, I think you guys know what I'm saying about them being acoustic. Anyways, let me check out some lyrics on this, and then we're going to wrap this video up. I think my biggest hang up with the lyrics is trying to figure out if it's satirical or serious. The first stanza talks about a cookbook of death, basically a way to destroy the world, hidden beneath the polar ice cap. My immediate thought was that this was going to be about global warming. When did this come out? Oh, a few years ago. 2018. Why is that 6 years ago? Oh, time. Okay, anyways, now that I just had a mini mental crisis, it says that there's this codebook of death hidden beneath the polar ice caps, and it will destroy everything except the cockroaches. The chorus says, turn both keys simultaneously and open the door to the apocalypse chamber. We see that a couple of times on this track. Not too sure about that. The idea of turning both keys reminds me of usually weaponry. A way to fire off a nuclear weapon, you would need multiple keys to do so. So I think it's interesting that that would be used in a defensive manner to open an apocalypse chamber. But maybe I'm reading that incorrectly. I read that as a chamber to survive, like a bunker to survive during an apocalypse. But it might be the apocalypse chamber is this thing hidden beneath the ice caps that holds the apocalypse within it. Maybe that's how it's supposed to be read, which has the dual key analogy working a lot better, at least in my mind. It says, longing for the end of days and solemnly singing the praise, longing for their King of Kings to usher in a new beginning. To me, this sounds like doomsday preppers who always talk about the end of society and how things will be better after that. They're going to be the best hunters and society is going to go back to being tribal, and they really strive for this. They're longing for the end of days. Most people don't long for the end of days, and I think most adjusted humans find those people to be a bit weird. So I think that's an interesting part, and that also feels a bit satirical to me, a little bit of biting sarcasm in there. But then we get to the bridge, and it says, when the accursed have been confounded and given over to the bitter flames, mournful be that day of reprisal when judgment from the dust shall rise. We shift over into Latin for a stanza. The Latin translates roughly to, a man to be judged guilty, let Tartar absorb them, fall into darkness, give them everlasting or eternal rest. From there, we come back to English, and it says, now the eternal light is shining, the tremendous wrath that shines dissolves, and now this world is in ashes. So I don't know. This part seems to almost presented in a little bit more of a religious component. The idea of eternal light and eternal rest, our spirits being pushed to the other world and finding release in that. as we turn our backs on a world that dissolves into ashes, the physical realm. And it ends, going back to the chorus, let's turn those keys and open the door to the apocalypse chamber. So it seems a bit satirical to me. People who are hoping for the end times, they want the rapture to happen, they want the breakdown of society. That's kind of how I read the first half, but the back half feels a bit more serious about it. Why not bring it on? And so I don't know how to read the song. I don't know what angle it's trying to present itself through. And so I'm going to extend this out to y'all. Let me know your interpretation of this, because these are just my thoughts on Endolith Ichthys. And that brings another element to Ichthys is the little fish shape that tends to be related to Christianity. And I used to remember what it meant. It has been a long time since I have been to a church or done anything Christian, and as much as I remember parts of the Bible, I don't really remember too much about that specific shape and what it represents. But yeah, the Ichthys, that brings another religious component to it. So kind of makes me want to lean more towards that side of this is pro-apocalypse rather than a biting satire about people who are pro-apocalypse. And if it is pro-apocalypse, what's up with the ice cap apocalypse room chamber thing? I don't know. I guess I just have a lot of questions about this. Like I said, if you have any answers, you have a perspective or opinion about this, put it down in the comments, please. If you just want to agree with anything I said or disagree, if there's anything I said incorrectly, maybe you just want to add to the conversation, please put all that down in the comment section as well. Above that, in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree. It takes you here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. Alright, that wraps it up for today, but I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 p.m. UTC as usual. We're going to continue on with this week's theme of, what are we doing? I don't know. We're continuing on with something. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.